Hey, what's up, everybody? Once again, my name is DJ, doing what I do, sitting back here on a Monday, chilling. And of course, it's not Monday, but that's my catchphrase, and I'm sticking to it. So, I want to do a video stemming off the last video I did. I did a video, I think it was about a week ago. I don't put a lot of videos out all the time. I'm going to try to get back into it, but you know what I'm saying. So, the video I put out was where Krav Maga instructors go wrong. And when I say Krav Maga, I'm saying Krav Maga because that's what I teach, but self-defense across the board. So this applies to Krav Maga, this applies to whatever self-defense system that you're doing, because it's the same pretty much across the board. But this is where, that was about where Krav Maga instructors go wrong. Today, I'm going to talk about where Krav Maga students go wrong. All right, cool. So let's get into it. All right. I don't have my water, but that's all right. All right. Where do Krav Maga students go wrong? Okay. So I'm gonna give you three things three ways Krav Maga students go wrong. It's always three, sometimes four, but today I'm gonna try to stick with three. Okay. All right. So the first thing that Krav Maga or self-defense students get wrong is they think that one move is invincible. They think that one move is invincible. So what I mean by that is, let's say you're learning how to do something. Let's say you're learning how to do a defense against a two-hand choke, which is a standard defense in a self-defense systems, because it's a common attack, especially when it comes to somebody that's bigger against somebody that's smaller, or a man against a woman. So whatever defense you learn from that. In Krav Maga, we talk about the two-hand pluck, or maybe even the one-hand pluck, or maybe the 7-3. These are defenses that we use against the two-hand choke. Well, I just gave you three right there, but people think that one move, if you learn how to do one move, then that can get you out of any two-hand choke. Which means that if you're doing a 7-3, for example, if you're doing a 7-3 defense, you think that 7-3 defense is going to work every time you do it. All you got to do is perfect your 7-3 defense. Or if you're doing a two-hand choke defense, a two-hand pluck, you think that two-hand pluck is going to work every time. Or a one-hand pluck. Or whatever defense that you're doing, you learn that and you think that that's going to get you out of a situation every time. I got news for you, folks. There is no such thing of an invincible technique. There's no such thing. It does not exist, okay? As a matter of fact, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that there is no technique, period, that's more than 80% effective. There is no technique. I don't care what you learn, there's no technique that you can learn that's more than 80% effective. The way you gauge its effectiveness when it comes to self-defense is how likely it is to succeed. It ain't going past 80, okay? And if somebody said this is get you out of the situation 100% of the time or 90% of the time, then they're lying. One of the reasons why you think it's going to get you out of a situation 100% of the time is because, and particularly in training, your partner always lets you do it. So you can't, if you learn that if your partner stops letting you do it all the time, then you'll realize this doesn't work all the time. Now, your partner doesn't let you do it. So now you try it and try it and try it and you can't do it. So now you think that it's not even effective 80% of the time. It ain't effective 70% of the time because you can't pull it off, or you think you're doing it wrong or something like that. No, look, it's just not effective more than 80% of the time. The way you get things to be more effective, or the way you even reach that 80, is to prep. Well, you know what? I ain't even gonna get to that one yet. I'm gonna talk about that later on, how you make it to be more effective, okay? But just know that it's not even more than 80%. No move is more than 80% effective. It's not such thing as an invincible technique. Okay. So the second thing that students get wrong is they think that it's only one way to do something. So I'm not even just talking about, I mean, I know I just gave you 3 ways to get out of a choke. That's an example. But let's say you learn how to do, I don't know, a fighting stance. You learn how to do a fighting stance a particular way. And then another instructor, or you go somewhere else and they teach you how to do a fighting stance another way, and you say that they're teaching you wrong because that's not the way you learned it. There's way more than one way to skin a cat. There's way more than one way to do. You know, I'll give you an example. When I first came into, I can give you several examples. I'm just going to give you one. I used to box, and people who've been watching my channel know I used to box. Now, the boxer stance is somewhat bladed, okay, somewhat bladed, and where the Krav Maga stance is more square, and so is a Muay Thai stance. So when I first got into Krav Maga, they was telling me to square my stance off, and I was like, well, that's wrong. And I was young, and I didn't really understand that there's more than one way to do it. It took me a long time to really get that Krav Maga stance because I was like, that's not the way I learned it. Well, then when I started taking some wrestling and stuff like that, they told me, well, you got to bend your knees more, get lower. I said, well, if I do that, I can't move. But by that time, I had realized it all depends on the situation. There's always different ways of doing something. Anytime I do a guest, sometimes people get me to come to their schools and as a guest and teach their classes. I always teach techniques with a variation and different. Because number one, if I'm teaching somebody at school and I'm not going to teach the same thing that they taught the same way, because why would they want me to teach it at school if I'm going to do it the same way? Okay, so I switch it up a little bit, and some students was like, well, that's not the way I learned it. That's not the way you learned it because there's always another way of doing something. Okay. And it's good to learn other ways of doing something, if nothing else, but it changes the monotony of your training. But like I said, there's always more than one way to skin a cat, okay? So you use what you can, you disregard what you can't, and you adapt what is uniquely your own. Wise words when it comes to my man, Master Bruce Lee. Very wise words. So there's not just one way of doing something. If you go into another school, guys, and they teach you another way of dealing with a choke, for example, don't chuck it. Don't be like, well, that ain't the way we learned it. Embrace it. Learn how to do it, okay? Perfect it, and it may be something that you can put into your repertoire. Then again, you may learn it and say, nah, I don't like that, okay? But don't just chuck it because that's not the way you learned it. All right, cool. The third thing that Krav Maga students or self-defense students get wrong is, and this is the biggest one of all, I could have said that first, I almost did, is they don't practice. Look, man, just talking about Krav Maga for a second. Krav Maga it's not that hard to learn. And I'm going to do another video on that as well. But you still got to practice, okay? Students come in and they learn something, two-hand choke, for example. And this is what they doing this week. Well, we may not do a two-hand choke again for 4 weeks. And if you don't do a two-hand choke in practice for 4 weeks, how you going to get good at it? Remember I told you about that 80%? The way you get to that 80% is to practice on it. So you practice and you practice and you practice. And like my dad said, when you're done practicing, you practice some more, okay? You got to practice on this. Now, there are other, now I can talk about other things, like for instance, other people practice more so than the people I see at Krav Maga. When Krav Maga people practice, or even like other self-defenses I've done, when they practice, when they got a test coming up. Oh, there's a test coming up. You see people coming on Sundays, Saturday after class. You know, it's a test coming up. Everybody practicing. Okay? But you can't just practice when there's a test coming up because you don't know when an attack is coming up. You don't know when a real attack is going to happen. So you should always be practicing. Okay? What they say, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. You don't know when that real test is going to happen. So don't just practice when a test is coming up. You always practice. So like, you know, and Krav Maga, I think it's the culture because it's made for the person that doesn't have a lot of time to train. So people don't do Krav Maga except when they come into class. Unlike other arts, like for instance, jiu-jitsu, when I go take jiu-jitsu, I always see people practice. I see people practicing after class. I see people practicing before class. They practicing all the time. They watching videos. Jiu-jitsu people are practicing. And I think the reason goes back to that one move thing. Because when jiu-jitsu, just giving a jiu-jitsu example, every day they getting tapped. So they losing every day. They can't get this arm bar. They can't get this triangle. So when you losing every day, you know that you need to practice to get better. Where in Krav Maga, you more of a success rate because the partner is giving it to you, which is bad. That's why I tell my students you got to be more tougher on your partners, okay? It's another video. But because you did it successfully so much in class, you think you ain't got to practice because your success rate is up. Where in other arts, your success rate is down, so they know they got to practice. But I'm telling you, students, you got to practice. If you don't practice, then you will not get proficient at any of those things. So those are three things that students do where students go wrong, okay? They think one move is invincible. They think it's only one way to do it, and they don't practice, okay? All right, so hopefully, you know, after watching those videos, you correct those things, and whatever you're going to do, just do it the best of your ability. All right? Cool, guys. Peace. I'm out. Oh! Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.